FM 92.1 WCSR, the Timeout Show for a Wednesday, September 4th. It is our fourth annual Hillsdale College Charger Football Roundtable. And boy, do we have a show for you tonight. Unfortunately, we only have 39 minutes to do it. So we've got Tiger Baseball coming up at 6:40. Our show is brought to you by the Jack Smith Agency, Hillsdale Travel Center, Coach B's Driving School, and Randy's Auto Body. And on the show tonight, Hillsdale College Hall of Famer, Mr. Jim Eckhardt, the voice of the Chargers on television, Dan Bisher, Sports Information Director and Assistant Athletic Director, Brad Monastiere, Hillsdale College photojournalist, TV journalist, multiple other journalists, Genna Hilgenbrink, and the curator, the man who makes it happen on ChargerBlue.com, Andy Losik. Good evening, one and all. How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Hey, it's a great day.
We're all doing great. Andy, are you there?
I am here, yes.
What's up, bro?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day over here along the lakeshore.
Good to hear it. Good to hear it. I want to welcome everybody on into the 2013 college football season. It's been a while. It seems like it's a week later this year. We would have been playing last week, I feel like, but that's just me. Great group to talk Charger football tonight, but before we really get into this season, Brad, I wanted to kind of take a second to reflect on last year as an entrance into the new season, because we're saying goodbye to one of the great players in Charger football history, in Joe Glendenning, aren't we?
Well, we are, and he was an impact player from the day he got to campus. Even when he was a freshman on our 2009 playoff team, he got GLIAC Special Teams Player of the Week one week because he blocked a punt, took a fumble back for a touchdown, and was on our special teams unit before he became our all-time leading rusher. So you can't replace player for player that kind of production. What you hope to do as a program is to bring in the next man up and bring in either one or two players that can keep the threat going. And that's going to be what's going to be really interesting to see is it's a team with a lot of familiar faces, a lot of experience, particularly on defense, but it's also a team where we have a lot of unknowns. We have an unknown at quarterback, at tailback, at center. We have a new starting center. H-back is such a key part of our offense. So the challenge is going to be, you can't replace a Joe Glendenning with one guy, but you can maintain the production as an offense. And that's the question that we'll have to all get answered when we see our guys out there Saturday night.
I sat in this broadcast studio 3 or 4 years ago after Mark Nicolay was graduating and predicted doom and gloom for the Chargers. There's no way that they can replace Nicolay.
What a doubting Thomas you are.
He was indispensable, and then this guy Weatherhead showed up, and he was pretty darn good.
Set the NCAA single-season record for completion percentage.
So I'm cautioning Charger fans, you want to always... There's always turnover, and Coach Otterbein is talked about this 100,000 times, Genna. You're always going to have turnover in college football, and you had a chance to talk to Coach a little while ago in your season preview. By the way, it's a great video. I posted it on the Facebook page, Time Out with Andy Brown. You talked to Coach Otterbein last week. What did you take away from that conversation?
I took a lot away from the conversation, but most of all, I think it was that he feels that they're prepared. He went through the whole season. He went through what they do in the spring, what they do in the summer, and I got to see a lot what they do in the summer. Lots of workouts, intense workouts, spend a long time on that. But I think the one thing that he really wanted to stress was that the caliber of the people, as people, they are intelligent. They have to do Hillsdale College academics, which is very rigorous to say the least. And you know what? They're good people as a whole. And I think, so it was just a matter of being prepared, and I think it was a matter of talking about the kind of caliber of the people that they have.
Andy Losik is the only person on the dais that actually played Charger football, and he joins us from the shores of Lake Michigan. Andy, as a Charger player, you can obviously attest to what Jen is talking about.
Oh, absolutely, and that was one of the things that really struck me when I arrived on campus more than 24, 25 years ago now. And, it's the quality of those people. The sign says it when you come in. It's the people, and sometimes we kind of, poke fun at that a little bit. But, gosh, the guys that I, played with. And look at the college administration. Look at how many senior members of the college administration that have been there forever are actually Charger football players, like Aaron Peterson and John Cervini and Jeff Lannis. I mean that's a huge testament to the character that this program stands for and what it builds in people.
Jim Eckhardt is the only Hall of Famer in our group, the only current one. Losik might be the first internet-based Hall of Fame member a few years down the road. But Jimmy, obviously, we got to cover Joe Glendenning for 4 years, and it was so much fun. Over 50 touchdowns, all of the stats. He's got the records that you feel like are going to stand forever. You've got the broadest perspective of anybody in our group. Where does he kind of fit in your pantheon of great Chargers?
Well, he certainly was one of the top 3, maybe, certainly. But, well, I'm telling you, we've had some awfully good ones around here over the years, and I've been watching it for 55 years, so I can tell you there's some awful lot of very good football players have gone across Hillsdale College gridiron.
Dan Bisher and I take these endless trips all over the Midwest to do these games, and a guy that you talk about a lot, Dan, is Nate Clark. And I didn't see Nate play, but he sticks out in your mind as one of your favorite players, and right there on the mantle with the Joe Glendenning.
Oh, no doubt about that, Andy. He was a player and a half, actually. If he would have played in the modern day when they played 11 games, because they were only playing, 9 games back then?
Most of the time, 8.
Yeah, most of the time 8. And if he would have had the 11 games, I don't know whether Glendenning could have broken his record or not, because he was just unbelievable. Now, Nate passed away here a couple of years ago, and he was a gentleman through and through. And for a lot of guys here in Hillsdale back in the early 50s, he was the first African-American that we ever had contact with. And he was such a class guy and treated us, all of us little kids, with respect. And we just enjoyed being around him, and watching him play was a thrill.
Good stuff, Dano. Thank you very much. You're listening to the Chargers Roundtable as we get ready for the 2013 season. You need to be, there are no excuses, folks. You need to be at Muddy Water Stadium Saturday night at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a great atmosphere. The home football, Brad, is just a different thing. I love football at noon, late afternoon, night. I love it anytime. You could play it at 2 in the morning, and I would love it. But there's something exciting about kicking off under the lights.
I think particularly having a season opener at night gives it that extra layer of specialness to it. And Andy, I've told you this before, our field just glows under those lights, and it just gives it a different look. And I think for our guys, where Friday night football was such a staple for them, and now they're kind of in a reality where it's more the Saturday afternoons, but it can take them back to that high school type of atmosphere that they all really enjoyed and thrived in. And if they didn't, they're not good enough to be here.
I wanted to kind of work my way into this year's team by starting with the strength, and that's that defensive side. Those 3 senior linebackers are pretty darn good.
Well, they are. They've got an aggregate, I think, 96 starts between the 3 of them. And you want to achieve that sort of unspoken chemistry. And those guys definitely have it. You can also see that with our offensive line. We got 4 starters back with that unit. That's even maybe more critical to have that unspoken communication between those guys. But what Steve Embry, Devin Moynihan, Brett Pashy bring, they're all very similarly built. They have similar skills, and they have similar intensity. So, and if they're coached by John Lindley, you will be intense. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. But they pursue extremely well side to side. They can read an offense very, very well. They're all real smart guys. They're high GPAs in that group. And they really lead the way. And I think when you look at a defensive line that's got a constant rotation, we're going to run 8, 9 guys through the defensive line. You have that stability at linebacker that the D lineman will be able to rely on. And that's what I want to see, that connection happen, especially early in the season as we are right now with our linebackers.
Jimmy, the fact that you are transitioning skill players, you have a new quarterback this year in Sam Landry, new starting running backs, Isaac Spence and Bennett Lewis. So the fact that you've got the defensive side hopefully strong and solid, that helps coaches sleep better at night, knowing that at least you've got that to rely on.
Well, there's no question. I mean, if you've got a good, solid defense, you've got a great foundation. But you also have to score touchdowns in order to win football games. And, we're looking at a group of guys that, the names may not be as familiar as some of those that just graduated a year ago, but they're pretty good players. Yeah, I mean, it isn't like the cupboard went dry. I think you're going to like Isaac. I think you're going to like the quarterback. I think you're going to like the H-back. You're going to like a lot of what you see. They're just new names. The baton has been passed. It's now their turn.
Genna, you have an interesting perspective on this, being close with Garrett, because Garrett Lee, Pittsford's own, is one of those linebackers sort of positioned behind the top three that Brad talked about. And his perspective of being able to work out and practice with those guys every day, what has he kind of taken away from that trio?
You know, he sees who's in front of him. He kind of knows what's going on, but he's hoping for next year, kind of thing. He's grown a lot, both in size and the way he plays. Just the size of him. I mean, he's got broader shoulders. He's bigger, taller. You know, I think he next year's going to be his time. But you know, if the guy goes down, unfortunately,
He's got to be ready.
He is ready. He is ready right now if he wants to go.
So what about that? I mean, he was a super. Dan covered him 100 times
Yeah.
at Pittsford. He was a superstar there. Obviously, small
One of
school.
my favorites.
Definitely, and for good reason. And now here he is. He doesn't get to crack the lineup a lot. In a blowout, he'll get in the game. I mean, has that been a tough transition for him, or has he kind of taken it all in stride?
On a personal level, it's been a very tough transition. But you know what? He's got the support of his team. He's a very friendly guy, open guy.
Sure.
Very polite as well. And I think that he's taking it in stride over the years, but initially it was pretty tough on him. He's looking forward to next year, I'll tell you that right now. And he's also looking forward to this year.
Sure.
So
Great parents, too.
great parents. I love them.
Gary has one of the nicest families. They've never met a stranger, his family. Andy, you didn't play a lot when you were at Hillsdale
Thanks,
College. Hey, listen, I didn't play at all, so you beat me. But you didn't play a lot, but you were on some pretty good football teams. And just to be on that team, even as a backup, had to be pretty special.
Well, it did, and I can't thank Coach Dave Dye enough for, you know, he was one of the coaches that really kind of pulled me aside and said, hey, listen, I know you're not going to see the field a whole lot on Saturday, but I sure appreciate everything you do Sunday through Friday on the scout team and that kind of stuff. And, you know, and that meant a lot to me. And it also, you know, that was another one of those character and life lessons that, you know, like I said, I can't thank Hillsdale College football enough for helping me understand that everybody's got a role, and it doesn't matter how high you get up on the ladder, it's what you do on every rung. And so, you know, I was, you know, 4-year scout team player of the year, whatever, but, you know, I gave it all I had, you know, that down there, and I got a big kick out of, you know, guys like Rob Pike and Marty Walsh just being just flabbergasted with me. Just, you know, because going hard during scout team and stuff and just kind of needling them and pushing them. I got a story, though. One time, Coach Lowry thought I got a little close to Greg Younger, and he said, Losik, do you think you can play quarterback on Saturday? And I said, well, I can give it a try, Coach, because I'm probably not going to be playing much at linebacker. So,
Andy, this defense, it needs to be a strength this year, doesn't it?
It does, you know, and in the 1992 team, we were loaded with, you know, we had Greg Younger at quarterback, and Scott Schulte's another one of those guys that sits up there with Joe Glendenning, and Nate Clark is a great back. But man, we had just some great people on defense with Carl Taylor and Rob Oginski in the back, and Jerry Klakata is one of those linebackers that sits up there with Rodney Patterson and Tom Cordy and Scott Duncan in this group, you know, and so. You know, the defense is gonna keep these guys in games, and I think that's definitely going to be a strength. And if they can just keep it close, you know, this team has proven over the years. I go back to that Grand Valley, the real turning point, the validation, beating Grand Valley on homecoming. It was just a matter of just staying close with those guys, and the offense was poised enough and smart enough and methodical enough to pull that thing out. So.
Dano, go ahead, Andy. Dano, the bottom line is with some new guys coming in offensively, the defense is going to have to get it done. And, you know, Dan Pittman, for instance, is a guy that we didn't know a lot about last year coming into the season. He had some huge moments for that football team. Sometimes guys you wouldn't even expect make a big impact.
Sometimes you're just like Alex Folk coming in. Cam White's place at the end of the season there. I mean, that was huge. But, this year, Andy, there just aren't going to be any weeks off for the Chargers. They may have the most difficult schedule in the league, and everybody in the country around Division II knows that the GLIAC North Division, if it isn't the toughest, it certainly ranks right up there with the MIAA and the Gulf South Conference, and it's gonna be tough no matter who you're playing this year. You got to be ready to play every game, and I'm sure Coach Otterbein and his staff understands that. And speaking of the different teams, Valdosta State comes in again because they're the reigning national champs. Obviously, they're ranked number 1. Minnesota State Mankato, who we played a couple of years ago in the playoffs and defeated, they come in at number 2. Northwest Missouri, who's Saginaw Valley, and the GLIAC is going to take on tomorrow night, I think, and Thursday night. And then West Texas A&M, and you go down to number 7 is Ashland, and they're ranked ahead of Grand Valley, that's number 9. And Saginaw is actually ranked, let's see here, they're ranked 18th, and those are the only 3 teams from the GLIAC that are in the top 10 in the D2Football.com poll, which is probably the most accurate poll in the country. And then Indianapolis, who we play on homecoming, is ranked number 22 in that poll. So we've got no easy games. We got 3 of the top 25 teams to play in Indianapolis, Saginaw, and Grand Valley. And then, you throw in Michigan Tech, and that's never an easy game. As Jimmy can tell you, he's been up there before, and he knows that's a tough one. And then Wayne State. Wayne State's had our number every time we go up to Detroit, and you and I have been up there for several years and come home kind of scratching our heads, why can't we win up at Wayne State? But this year, we got them at home, so it seems like every time we get them down here, we're able to get a victory. So no easy games, that's for sure.
We couldn't tackle Detroit Lion tailback Drake Bell very easily up there. So, Brad, what about this GLIAC North? I mean, it's just a murderer's row pretty much. The Chargers are preseason ranked 5th, and it doesn't sound very good, but the division's that good.
Well, 2 points I want to make about that. Number 1, I judge a conference or division by how strong is its weaker teams. Right. How those weaker teams compare against weaker teams from other conferences or other divisions. I'd put our 5th place team in the GLIAC North against